Welcome to another episode of the You're in Charge podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Pasch. And each week we bring strategies to you, tactics and tools to help you become the manager and leader that you want to be. Whether you're brand new to leadership or you're an experienced manager and you're just looking to refine your skills, I'm so glad that you joined us this week. We have a very interesting episode. Last week, we did a talk about change and implementing change. You know, it's the beginning of the year and everybody does resolutions and, businesses are looking at their prior year and making some changes or institute changes. This episode struck a nerve because I got a lot of feedback from my own clients that I'm working with, because they said that reminds me of conversations you've had with us. But more importantly, people have reached out to me. And I was just at a very large convention, and a lot of people came up to me and was talking to me about this. And they were saying how that resonated because they had conversations like that. And so I wanted to address a few common questions. People sent me things, and instead of turning around and saying this is the Bob said this or Mary said this, I wanted to make sure that we group these and we talked about them in chunks, because there seemed to be about 5 or 6 common threads through all of this. So let's talk about it. So the first one was, and especially after this event, the comment was, my manager, or in this case, an automotive dealer principal, they go to their 20 groups, or they come to these conferences, or they hear people speak, even if it's you, Glenn, they hear you speak. And then they come back and they said, all right, we're going to change. And they either just drop something on someone's desk and say, we need to implement this, we need to do this. Could be a piece of technology. Oh, so at my 20 group, this dealer's using this tool, so we need that tool. Go get that tool. And it seems that what you were talking about planning out change or having conversations about should we even change is not happening. So that's a great, we don't, almost to the point of they're afraid for people to go to these events because they know they're going to come back and something's going to change. So I think it's a very valid point. It's normal to go to an event or go to a workshop or talk with other dealers. And when you're talking about success or it seems exciting, it sounds like a really great idea. But if you're not very clear in your business or dealership, in this case, to understand what it is you do, what is your process, what works for you, all the way down from the customer experience and working backwards, how do I want my customers to feel about doing business with me? And then what does my team have to do to generate that feeling? And then we build those actions into processes and we change, and then we get the technology to support that. If that's not clear, you're going to end up with a Frankenstein monster. You're going to come get a new piece of technology and layer it in when maybe you already have a piece of technology that's doing half of that. So now I have 2 pieces of technology when I really only need 1. Or maybe you can say that's a great piece of technology, but it doesn't fit what we are doing, or the way that dealership is doing their sales process doesn't fit with what we're trying to accomplish. I could take this little piece and maybe we can implement it. So it's important for anyone who's listening, whether you're the person at the event coming back with the idea or thinking we need to change and you're the one who's driving this initiative, it's really important that you take a step back and plan it out. If you really think through this, you were doing it previously for whatever period of time, and you've come to a decision that, well, we need to change. Well, you've been doing it for a certain period of time. Another month is not going to really hurt you in most cases. So take the time to analyze, have that meeting. What is this piece of technology? What is this new process? What is this new strategy? Are we currently doing something similar to that? Do we have a piece of technology that's similar to that? So before we start changing everything, are we fully aware of what we currently have, what our current process is? Is the fact that we're dissatisfied because we're just not executing well on what is in place? And if we get everybody working efficiently on our current process, maybe some of that will solve this unease about what we're currently doing. So I don't want to discourage managers, people going to conferences. I run conferences, so I want you to come to conferences. But when you go back, before you start changing everything, take your time to go back and implement in a series of steps. What do we currently have in place? Does this replace, or is this an addition? If it's an addition, where does it fit? Who's going to be the champion? Who's going to own understanding this? How does it get implemented? How are we going to roll this out? As at what pace? Again, this is a strategy. This is not flip the table over. We're going to do things. Again, emotions are a great thing, but emotions can also hinder us if we really want to implement change in the correct manner. So that's our first one. The second one was unrealistic time frame for change to happen. I understand we're all in the now, or it should be happening yesterday business, especially in automotive, working on a 30-day sales cycle every month. You know, we have goals to set. There are other sales organizations I've worked with where it's more of a year-long process, but still they back it up to say, where are we at this quarter and that quarter, and what's our progress? So they don't wait to the end of the year to go, oh, we didn't make it. So there is this idea of change getting implemented. And as I said, a lot of times some of this, the answer to this question about this pressure that may not be working fast enough could be because you didn't implement it correctly. Implementation is the key. If you are really clear about how you're implementing it and setting realistic goals, or saying to yourself, I don't know how quickly this is going to adopt. I'm not quite sure. I think we should be at X within a month, but we'll see. And having that, again, culture of adaptability to see, maybe it goes faster. Great. If it's going slower, why is it going slower? Making sure you understand what the rollout is versus just rolling it out and then getting frustrated. The other piece that we talked about in that episode was this idea of adoption takes time. People don't like changing. You know, that's why by the time this episode airs, it'll probably be the end of January. Most people have already lost out on their resolutions that they made, be it I'm going to eat healthier, I'm going to work out. And I cautioned everybody in that episode, this idea of I'm always going to work. I'm going to work out every day. Be careful about every day. Just focus on today. And did I work out today? And give yourself some grace to that. But a lot of people don't like change. It takes time. We fight it. We find reasons not to. Even best intentions. Habits are hard to break. It takes time to change a habit. So make sure that you as the leader, when you're implementing this change, based on, again, what the feedback I'm getting is, don't put the pressure on. Set a goal. But if this is new, you don't know if your goal is correct just because that other dealer or that other business person or the technology provider is telling you, well, that's easy. Within a month, you should see this result. Their culture is different than yours. Their business is different than yours. Their people are different. They could have adapted to change easier than your team does because they've built a culture of change. I don't know, but give yourself some grace, but expect it. Month 2 is always the hardest. Month 1, everybody is involved. Everybody's focusing on it. It's the new initiative and everybody's talking about it from the dealer principal all the way through. But then all of a sudden the dealer principal hands it off to someone else and they hand it off to someone else. And it's not the shiny new object because maybe there's a new shiny object. And now this is sort of boring day to day. That's when people start doubting it. And it's your job to make sure that you're involved, coaching them, and making sure that we keep the focus. And there will be the roller coaster. It's going to happen. And you just have to stay with them and keep it a topic and keep coaching them until it starts to become second nature. And then they'll start going up. So maybe a roller coaster is the wrong analogy. I like the analogy of bouncing a basketball on an escalator. So there's ups and downs, but hopefully the overall trend is this. But along that way, you're still going to have your ups and downs. It's up to you to make sure you're pushing through that. Number 3, how do I keep growing without going backwards? You're going to go backwards. It's just going to happen. You will take a step backwards just because it's new. It's not ingrained in you yet. It's not second nature, right? I use the analogy of driving a car. Remember when we all first got in the car and we were in our driver ed class or wherever we were when we first started driving, or maybe you had a driving teacher and you had your hands at 10 and 2 and you watched the mirrors and you obeyed the speed limit and you were so hyper aware of what was going on and nothing. Turn off the radio. Don't talk to me. And we were, because it wasn't second nature, you had to walk through. Did I check the mirrors? Do I have my seatbelt? Is my seat adjusted? You went through that mental checklist. Now, after however many years, you get into the car. You shouldn't be, but people are texting, people are looking at the mirrors, people are driving with their leg while they get their coffee or they're opening their soda bottle because it's second nature to them. Same thing, if you've been doing your job, when you first started your job, you were hyper aware of everything. Now you just move through the day. I'm not saying you ignore things. I'm not saying you take things for granted, but it's become a habit to you. That's what you have to work. So you will feel like you're going backwards, but again, focus on the actions. Don't judge yourself. Try to knock that voice out of your head. It's not about your effort. It's doing the actions. And if you're not doing the actions, what stopped you? Not you're a bad person. What did you do instead of what you thought you should, or what you should be doing? Or did you get pulled away from something? Don't judge. Just the next day, this is what I have to do to get back on track. This was an interesting question about why change doesn't work or why is nothing change. This was someone who says we never change. They don't want to talk about change. They don't want to hear about that. This is the way we've always done it. This is the way we've always been successful. And that's fine. But if we're talking about growing and we're talking about changing, and the idea of getting better, why is that not working? Well, if you're going to keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same results, right? They say that is the definition of, definition of insanity, is doing the exact same thing, but expecting different results. Now, there is some, you've heard me a million times, if I can get more efficient at my process, I'm going to get incrementally better results. But again, we've talked about it in that episode. If you want to go from 100 to 200, you can't keep doing the same things and think that you're going to double production. You have to change your strategies, change your process, maybe change the number of people on your team, might have to change opportunities in terms of your marketing. There's a lot of things you have to change. But if you're not going to adapt and change, your business is going to go out of business, right? That we are now, we went from traditional marketing, radio, TV, print. We're now first start websites. Now we have social media advertising and TikTok advertising. Now we have targeted ads. Now we know when you're back on a website, whether you give me your name or not. So everything is evolving and changing. But if you're still going, the internet's a fad, you're not going to be successful. And I know that's an extreme topic, but there are dealerships and businesses and people that say, we still manage the same way. We still talk about the same way. We still treat customers the same way that we've done for the last 20 years. And they wonder why it's not working, meaning why we're not getting better, why our sales are not growing, why we're losing customers. It's because you haven't changed. And even as a leader, change can be frightening because you're moving into something where maybe you don't have the answer. And you don't know. And it's humbling. It's humbling to raise your hand and say, I don't know, I need help. And a lot of people who have always been looked at as you have all the answers to say, I don't really know this. That's one of the reasons. So again, if you're somewhere in a business that you don't feel is changing and they're unwilling to change and you want better, I'm not telling you to quit, but that business is not going to help you achieve everything that you want. One of the last ones I wanted to talk about here, I think there's one or two more. This one was an interesting one when we're talking about change, why it's not working. What about my top salespeople? Again, sometimes it always revolves around sales, but any department has a top performer. Let's just say, well, my top performer doesn't want to change. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to fire that person? And that's a phenomenal question. And there is no one answer that fits. It really does come down to, is this a hill you're willing to die on, so to speak? I have managed teams where I have let go my top performer, and my management team thought I was crazy. You can't fire them. They're generating this. And I said, but you're missing the point. Is he, at the time, this gentleman, had a group of about 5 or 6 people that looked up to him, their little clique. And it was affecting them because they thought they could get away with that behavior, but they weren't producing that way. And then we saw other people who were not in that clique, but they were getting frustrated saying, why do I have to follow the rules and they don't have to follow the rules? And I tried everything. I tried sitting down with this person and saying, can you just look like you're following the rules? You and I have an understanding, but I need you to do this. And he just would push back. Look at my numbers. Look what I'm doing. This works. I don't care. And finally, I just said to say, this isn't working for me. And of course, he made a scene that, oh, the company's going to go downhill without him. But what I believed was going to happen is that that group in his clique would see that I let that person go. And they're going, well, if they got rid of that person, they're sure going to get rid of me unless I tow. And guess what? Their production went up where we recovered half of their output. And the other people were so happy that I got rid of that person. They eventually got 25 to 30%. And over time, within about a month, we recovered that person's output. Now, other times I can see where people will say, I don't want to do that. But you have to understand that there are going to be underlying stress with other people, that this person's getting away with something in their mind. They're not following the rules and I have to follow the rules. I'm getting yelled at. I'm getting disciplined. Now you can sit there and say, well, when you get to this level, then you can have that benefit. I don't love that. I'm telling you, I made deals with people. I tried to not make them visible. But when you're open to that and you're announcing to everyone, well, if you get to this, then you get special treatment. What happens if that person falls down below that special treatment? Are you pulling them away? Probably not, because they're going to say, I just had a rough month. I'll get back. But what if they don't? Are you really good? And if you're willing then to say, well, you went below this level, so now you have to follow these rules, and they end up quitting, they would have quit anyway. It's not an easy conversation, but that's one of the biggest ones about why it's not working, is because everybody has their own little rules. Everybody has their own little initiatives. We got to baby this person. We don't let this person do this. We don't let that person, they don't have to do that. And that's one of the biggest reasons why sometimes change doesn't get implemented. It's because they're not following rules. Again, I look at it as top performers in sports. You go to one team, you could be the best on one team, but when you go to this other team, the rules are different and you either follow the rules or you're not going to be there. So again, you just have to make that decision of what really is important. But most of the times, if you sit down with that top performer and say, hey, I need you to follow these couple things, and you negotiate, a lot of times you can solve that as well. Lastly, the why doesn't it work? I think the biggest, one of the biggest things over my years of running businesses now for a long time is admitting that that change that you thought was going to work didn't work, and saying you made a mistake and putting something else in place. Sometimes your ego gets in the way, and it was your initiative, and you're the champion of this, and you put this in place. And it's not working, but you will not admit that it's not working, and you blame the other people for it not working, instead of just looking at it and say, I made a mistake. This didn't fit us. This didn't fit the culture. I thought it would. It's not. Say, we put this in place and it didn't work. That's on me. We're going to make another change and try it again. And having a culture of adaptability. But as long as you gave it enough time, as long as you can put your head on the pillow and say, I implemented it correctly. We put in a process. The team knows what they're supposed to do. We were executing really well on this. It still wasn't getting it. We did coach and train. And we got to the point where we said, it's not the effort. It's not the process. It's the piece of technology. Or it's not the effort. It's the process. Whatever it is. Why things don't work is because your ego gets in the way and you're not willing to admit when you're wrong. So as leaders, the best leaders I know are the ones who will stand in front of their team and say, I made a mistake. Thank you for your effort. We're going in a different direction. I think that shows your team that failure isn't the end. Failure just means that one thing didn't work. And we move on and try another one till we find out. I'm sitting here under lights, as they say. Edison, I can't remember if the number was 1,000, but he failed 1,000 times until it worked. So what? Keep trying, keep working. Go back and watch the episode about implementing change. Go look on the channel and find all the different other episodes about communication and setting goals and building processes and why processes are important. They're there to help you get better. But I was really pleased of the feedback. And so I hope that this episode helps you answer some of those questions about, well, I tried something and it didn't work, and these challenges. So keep those comments coming. I really do appreciate it. I hope you found value. If you found value, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, just click the notification button. So every week when we launch new episodes, you'll know, ring that little bell and, give me a thumbs up. And again, love to hear your comments. If there's topics you want to talk about, people you want to see interviewed, put them out there on the channel. Same thing on wherever you're listening on podcasts. Again, give us a good review. That really helps spread the word. And you can help in that way too. Please make sure you share this episode out with people in your network. I'm sure there's someone that could benefit from this. And I want to thank the people at Black Swallowtail Studios for taking care of me here. They're engineering this. Dylan is on the board today. Also, Connor Pasch from PCG Digital for helping doing the final edits for everything. I appreciate my team. I appreciate your attention. I know there's a lot of places out there that you can get content, but the fact you spend a few minutes with me means the world to me. And as I say at the end of every episode, leadership is not the title. Leadership is there to help others. That is the goal of leadership, make everyone better. I hope that this gave you some tools and strategies to help you become the leader that you want to be. I look forward to seeing you next week. So just remember, keep moving forward.